every day.
But have we gone too far?
Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. What's going on, you beautiful people? It's your boy Vin in the house.
And Sori here.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. However you identify yourself, we are Vin and Sori. We don't know anything about politics, and we don't know anything about progressivism or regressivism or whatever ism. But we're just trying to figure this stuff out. Yeah, we're pro-life. We're pro-life. We're Christians, and we're just trying to figure this
and
shit
we're
out.
interested in our culture and the effects that it has on us as a people and the world around us. So
Correct.
We're about to break this down.
Correct. So I put the term COVID in the thingamajig.
Oh, they're gonna shut us down?
But even the little, I coded it. I didn't put it in properly. Mm-hmm. But even that, YouTube is, they're going to thaw the hell out of this video. But that's okay. Guys, I just came across something that I honestly could not believe when I initially saw it. Some of it is because the people that, made the claim are hardcore right-wing people who I perceive as not very balanced and not very honest. But I did my due diligence, and it appears that what they're saying is actually true, and it's mind-boggling to me. And it is something that I think I don't care what side of the discussion you're on in this situation that we're in, and believe me. I understand that this is a massively complex issue. I get it. I understand that. I respect the hell out of it. However, at some point, we've got to say to ourselves, what the hell is going on, and what kind of people do we want to be? Now, my position, I will tell everybody right now, my position is that to personalize this decision about whether or not to get vaccinated, the way that these folks frame it as some sort of personal decision, and this, radical individualism and all the rest of it,
right,
I think is absolutely horrible.
Right.
People who are saying, I think, okay, so are we going to mandate people not eat Burger King and McDonald's because that's not healthy either? The concern, ladies and gentlemen, is not about your personal health.
Right.
The concern is you could end up doing something that gets other people killed.
Right. If your personal
That's the
health
problem.
affects society as a whole. If somebody's overeating McDonald's, that's just them that's going to affect. And obviously, sadly, their family if something happens to them. But they're not going to pass on obesity from... You can't eat burgers and pass on obesity to the people around you from doing that.
Obesity is not a communicable disease.
Right, exactly.
It's not. Now, here we go, guys. Here we go. A Colorado-based health system says it is denying organ transplants to patients not vaccinated against coronavirus. In almost all situations, citing studies that show these patients are much more likely to die if they get COVID-19. UC Health's rules for transplant entered the spotlight Tuesday when Colorado State Representative Tim Geithner, a Republican, said it denied a kidney transplant to a Colorado Springs woman because she was not vaccinated against the coronavirus. Calling the decision disgusting and discriminatory, Geithner shared a letter that he said the patient received last week from UC Health's Transplant Center at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus in the city of Aurora. The letter said that the woman would be inactivated on a kidney transplant waiting list and had 30 days to start coronavirus vaccination. If she refused to be vaccinated, she would be removed. Guys, that to me is too far. I understand. As I said, I came out and I said it. I said, I have a serious issue with the anti-vaxxer folk, specifically as it regards coronavirus. Mm-hmm. I have a serious issue with that. What I've said from the beginning, though, is that the resistance toward the mandates and the resistance toward specifically the mask thing, I think is just I'm not going to get into what I think is really happening in the psychology of the folks who are against mask mandates. Mm-hmm. But at minimum, the vaccination mandates, which really isn't a mandate. Like, nobody's coming to arrest you if you're not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. So it's not a mandate in the ultimate sense. But I understand people saying, whoa. You're going to tell me what I have to put in my body? What I would say is that kind of element of resistance to the government is important. Because It's like I said about 9/11. When 9/11 happened, we had all these restrictions like the Patriot Act and all the rest of it. Was there a viable threat? Absolutely. Islamic terrorism was a viable threat. But the Patriot Act violated so many constitutional principles and rights, and it's never been reversed. And it appears to me, I don't know about you guys, but it appears to me we've got the terrorist thing kind of under control. Mm-hmm. And all of those laws, etc., that were augmented to account for the government hasn't given back that power. And as we saw with the Obama years and Snowden, they've gotten actually worse.
Right.
And so I think it is important to make sure that we have elements in our society that are resisting that. Mm-hmm. And telling the government and making it hard for the government to do that, because I think you need that in your society. Simultaneous to that, though, there's a biblical principle that the law is for the lawless.
Yep.
And so the idea is, if a person truly loved their neighbor, God would never have to write a law, and we would never have to have a law. Mm-hmm. But the reason you have to have a law is because people are selfish, and so you have to put some sort of incentive or disincentivized consequence in order to control that behavior. So I understand that, but this to me is just completely crossing a line. And as Kai says, what about the Hippocratic Oath? Like, I am completely against this selfish sort of radical individualist idea. Like this radical Ayn Randian sort of individualism that a lot of our friends on the right say they believe, which of course nobody believes in that, but okay, let's just pretend. This is one of the ramifications of it. We're looking at it like, yeah, you're going to hurt the rest of us. You're going to hurt the community because we're thinking from a collective standpoint.
Yeah.
What they're saying is, man, fuck the kid. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I care about me, and I don't want the thing. So I don't care if I'm going to infect you and you could die. I don't care. I hate that attitude. I think it's horrible because I'm pro-life. Mm-hmm. I am pro-vaccine for the same reason I'm pro-life, and that's the reason I'm against this particular policy. Now, I thought for certain you'd be horrified, but it seems that you're not horrified. So I want to hear from you.
I'm not horrified because you don't buy transplants. Those are given, to my understanding. So we have a massive shortage, which is why people are on waiting lists. You get put on a list, yeah. Right. And when it's your turn on the list, you get it. So if you're alive long enough. Right. If the studies are showing that vaccinated people have a greater rate of survival,
that's unquestioned. That's a fact.
Then I don't think that's crazy. If they're saying you can buy a kidney, but now we're not allowing you to buy a kidney, well, okay, then I think that's a little bit crazy. But if body parts are being donated to people and people are unwilling to do the things to make them at the greatest risk of survival, then why should that kidney go to somebody that could only last 2 months before COVID hits them and then they're dead? Like, if COVID is hitting as hard as what we're seeing on the numbers.
The numbers aren't telling us that, though. Like, yeah, this is the actual, we've actually obtained the actual letter, guys, so I'm just going to read it to you guys. The transplant team at the University of Colorado Hospital has determined that it is necessary to place you inactive on the waiting list. You will be inactivated on the list for non-compliance by not receiving the COVID vaccine. You will have 30 days to begin the vaccination series. If your decision is to refuse COVID vaccination, you will be removed from the kidney transplant list. You will continue to accrue waiting time, but you will not receive a kidney offer while listed inactive. Once you complete the COVID vaccination series, you will be reactivated on the kidney transplant list pending any other changes in your health condition. If you have questions or concern, please call me. Attaches a letter, blah, blah, blah. So that is the official letter that they sent this woman. Honey, First of all, we don't even have any longitudinal studies as to what the ramifications of taking the COVID vaccine are. We know that it does the job, right? But we don't know what the effects are going to be, 10, 15 years from now.
No, we don't.
Me personally, I don't care because I have a, I don't think that, I just don't think stuff's going to happen to me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I understand people saying, I don't know what the hell is in that thing. And there is, the people that are getting the most attention are the Tucker Carlson type, like ignorant. Oh, I don't care. I'm not putting anything on. I don't do it. My natural immunity, blah, 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 blah. But there are other people that are just like people are fearful of getting COVID. There are other people who are terrified of getting the vaccine because they don't know.
Oh, I was very uncomfortable.
They're hearing infertility, blah, 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 blah. They're terrified of getting the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So you're going to tell a person who's terrified of getting the vaccine you can't have a kidney? That's crazy to me. That is insane.
Honey, if I don't have the numbers. What are the numbers? Like how often are people dying from COVID? How often is the vaccine actually making a difference? Is it a big difference?
I mean, yeah, it's unquestioned. The vaccine
like
the vaccine is making a massive difference as to, people even displaying symptoms, much less dying from those symptoms. Like, okay. It's a massive difference.
So if we're having a pandemic and we're having a massive issue, then we have limited body parts to pass out to people.
Right, and that's why we have a list.
Right. And
so if that person is next up on the list,
and you get the kidney but you don't take the vaccine, and 6 months later you're in the hospital and you pass away from COVID,
yeah, but
that kidney should have gone to somebody who was willing to say, I'm ready to try to whatever I can to survive.
They need to demonstrate that the vast majority of kidney transplant recipients who are not vaccinated die within 6 months. Because Colorado, as far as I know, is the only state that's doing this, in my opinion, craziness. This is almost eugenics. This is the form of eugenics.
What? What do you mean?
It is a form of eugenics.
How so?
What do you mean? You're basically culling out the weak. That's eugenics, right? You're basically culling out the weak. That's a logic that's being used. Like,
no, I don't think that's the goal. That's not the goal.
Well, I think the goal, from my vantage point, the goal of that whole thing is to control people and punish them for not doing what the state wants them to do.
Why does the healthcare system Why does the healthcare system care?
Because they're in bed with big pharma and the government.
No, you're
what
right.
do you mean?
You're right.
I have a serious problem. Here's what I'd say. You need to provide me some study. You need to find me a study that says everybody who's unvaccinated who gets a kidney transplant or a heart transplant dies within 6 months when they're not unvaccinated.
No, that's not the connection that's being made, though.
Well, then how can you justify not giving that person the kidney if you have no empirical data that states that they're not going to live?
Okay, what percentage
the rest of their natural life?
What percentage are they more likely to die or not die if they have the COVID vaccine?
Well, that's not the question. The question is not, is the COVID vaccine effective? We know it's effective. Their argument is, we're not going to give you a kidney because you're basically going to die anyway because you're not vaccinated. And my argument is, show us the proof. I'd be open to this discussion if you could show me the fucking proof that a person who gets a transplant who is not vaccinated is going to die within 6 months.
No, I don't think that's what they're trying to say.
Well, then if they can't prove that, then...
No, it's not about the transplant. It's about saying, if you're not willing to vaccinate yourself, and so a year, 6 months, whatever down the road, you could catch COVID and die from it, and now that kidney has gone to waste because you died with it, then it should go to the person that vaccinated themselves that's trying to survive for as long as they can.
Okay, so then smokers, no heart transplant for smokers.
Honestly, I think that if there's a heart transplant and there's only one heart, and there's someone who spent their life smoking, and there's someone that hasn't, give it to that person.
I'm talking about how things work in the real world. I'm not talking about there's one and you have to decide.
It's limited. That's why there's lists.
That's why there's a list. So you're saying everybody who smokes, get them off the list.
I don't think that they should be topping. No, I do not think that somebody who has smoked their entire life should take body parts from somebody who hasn't.
So yes or no, just say it. Say it. You want smokers off the list.
Smokers, what do you mean? If there's plenty to go around, then yes,
there isn't. That's why there's a list.
Exactly. Then it should go to the people who have taken care of their bodies.
Let me ask you a question.
Same thing with alcoholics.
Can you answer my question? Smokers, no transplants, no heart transplant.
What you mean.
No heart transplant, no lung transplant, no kidney transplant.
I know it affects your lungs, but
so you're putting your life in mortal danger by smoking. So
I see what you're saying.
So no transplant. What about people who eat too much McDonald's? They're gonna fuck up their heart. No transplant.
I really think. Okay, yeah, but
that's eugenics.
That is eugenics.
That Brian G. I'm very familiar with eugenics. Actually, that's eugenics for sure. For sure. So, I mean, we're crossing the line here. We're crossing the line here. This to me, like, we're crossing the line. Again.
So stop. I want to ask you an emotional question. So if Zoe's on the line, she needs a heart, and a smoker's on the line and they want the heart, you're saying, well, the smoker was on the list first, give them the heart?
If Zoe was on the line for her heart and there was an innocent 5-year-old, I'd want the 5-year-old to die so that Zoe could get a heart. So that question isn't very helpful. Because I'm just being honest. I'd kill the whole world for my daughter. So that doesn't work.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we've got a list. We've got a list. And no, it's not called triage. We're not in a situation.
Yeah, but no, I don't feel like it's eugenics because you've made a personal decision to live your life in the most healthy way possible. So, but why are we saying the healthy person is more valuable than the other?
That's literally eugenics.
Yeah, but it's not right that.
It's absolutely it's an application of social Darwinism. That's all that's happening. And you could say, look, the mental disposition that goes towards being a person who would be an anti-vaxxer is also something that you cannot control from a Darwinian perspective, Brian. So it absolutely is still eugenics.
When the Titanic is sinking and they say women and children first,
yeah,
it should have been equal opportunity.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Because as a society, we understand, especially societies influenced by Christianity, that it's the job of the strong to care for the weak. It's not the strong need to care for the weak first.
Oh boy, yeah, that was a bad example.
Eugenics is the opposite. You're taking somebody who's weak and saying, we're not going to give it to you because you have a certain kind of defect. Now, in this particular case, I would say it's a mental defect, right? But you're saying because you have this kind of defect, you're not worthy of receiving this body part or this thing that could save your life. Now the irony
No, it's not a defect. You made a conscious decision to make your body defective.
So is a smoker.
That's what I'm talking about.
So is a smoker. So is an overeater.
Right.
We've got a massive obesity problem. So nobody in Maine can have a transplant because every third person here is obese. Shout out to Maine. I mean, how far do you want to take it? Should we look at? I don't somebody's going in for a transplant. Somebody's going in for a transplant. Let's look at their BMI. Let's weigh them against the BMI, and if they're over, then we should put them at the bottom of the line. And somebody who's the peak of physical fitness, that person should get it because they've demonstrated that they're worthy of it because they've been taking care of their body.
They've demonstrated that they're going to take care of those parts to keep them going for longer.
Right. So they should get priority. Right. Whereas a regular meme in Maine who's 120 pounds overweight, she's always going to get pushed to the back of the line.
From a Christian perspective, then no.
I mean, you could be a secularist. You don't need to be a Christian. This is craziness. What do you mean? Are you serious? I can't believe people are concerned. I thought you were going to be like, this is insane.
No, because
I'm very surprised. Holy shit.
I don't think it's right or fair that somebody can abuse their body their entire life and then get a transplant over the person that's been taking the mom that has the kids that she's been taking care of her body. She should get it, not the person that honestly,
that's insane.
I think that if you did something to actively make it so that part of your body failed, then the people that were just born that way they didn't do anything, they should take priority. So the person that has just a failing kidney because that's how they were born, or the person who actively fucked up their body because of substance abuse.
Wow. Okay. I'm very surprised. I'm very, 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 very surprised Unvaccinated people are getting priority in treatment in ICUs before the vaccinated. That's because they're about to die, Brian.
Unvaccinated or vaccinated?
The unvaccinated people are getting prioritized because they're dying. Yeah. So if I show up in the ICU with a compound fracture, it's very painful, but this person's dying. I'm sure if it was somebody that was related to Brian, he would want them to get priority.
So if you had no emotional connection to any of these people, and you had somebody who had been drinking their whole life,
I don't have an emotional connection to this woman.
Listen, just answer this question directly. So there's a person that has spent their entire life drinking, and they need a liver transplant, and then you have a mom who something went wrong in her body, but she didn't do anything wrong with it. She needs a liver transplant. You have one liver. Who are you giving it to?
Sorry. That is not the situation. It's a false analogy.
Why is it a false analogy?
Because we
have a limited supply.
It's a false analogy because, yes, there's a limited supply, but there's a scale. That's like saying...
What do you mean there's a scale?
That's like saying, okay, you have one slice of bread in the house. Nobody's eaten for 15 days. Who gets...
Split that.
No.
You can't split it.
No, you can't. You can't split it. You have unsplittable amount of bread. Who would you give it to? Ridiculous. We'll never be in that situation. We're talking about the real world. In the real world, here's what happens. There are thousands of kidneys every year. People get put on a list. Mm-hmm. If your family has the kidney, then you get priority. If there's not a match, you wait on the list. Mm-hmm. And if it's your turn on the list, they offer you a kidney or a heart or whatever it is. That's what happens in the real world. There's not a situation where there's one thing. Ridiculous. Again,
people die waiting on the list.
Exactly. That's my point. So your life is already on a thread waiting on the list, and you're saying, hey, you're a smoker. We're going to bump you down. You've been waiting 3 years. This guy's been waiting 3 weeks. But because he's at the pinnacle of physical fitness, we're gonna jump this guy over you because he's more worthy to live because he's done more to take care of his body than you have. How is that not eugenics?
Because might get that new part and just keep with that abusive behavior and die anyway, and that kid could have lived a lot longer.
So you're good. No smokers, no overeaters. And if you're not exercising every day,
no, not exercising.
What do you mean? Why are you drawing the line there? It's about control, taking care of your body. Come on, go all the way with it. This is madness to me. I can't even believe that this is a discussion. Let me flip it around. So if let's say I've done a bunch of reckless shit with my body. So if I was in there, you'd be fine with that?
No, we already said that if it's somebody that you love, you let them all go. So you're that person.
This is madness. I don't understand how you could say that as a pro-life person.
And I had one liver to pass out to somebody who tried.
Why do you keep going back to the one liver?
And somebody that had been on because we have a limited friggin' supply.
Okay, so so there's 8 of us in this house. We've all been dying, and we have of thirst. And there's one little thing of water, but there's only enough for one sip. This is where you're going. There's only enough for one sip. Who gets the water? You see how crazy that analogy is? It's ridiculous. Why don't you just deal with the real world? In the real world, you're trying to make this extreme thing so that you can justify this shit. Just come out and say it. This is like I tell people with abortion. Stop saying fetus. Say you want to kill babies. Just say it. So what you're saying is if a person is unfit and they don't deserve the liver, they're not going to get the liver. Because they're unfit.
Because I don't feel like you're phrasing that properly.
No, I'm phrasing it exactly the way of the ramifications of what you're saying. This is what y'all are saying. You're saying because you're unfit.
No, because
you're not taking care of yourself.
You made the choice to abuse your organs.
That makes you unfit. That makes you unfit.
And somebody who was born with just faulty organs should get it first.
So then the guy that's been waiting 3 years for the heart.
Because you made that choice to fuck up your body.
Just wait. The guy that's been waiting 3 years for a heart, he gets leapfrogged by the guy that runs 2 miles a day. That's just.
Say it again. Say it what?
So the guy's been waiting. He's a smoker, whatever. He's a lung transplant. He's a smoker. He's been waiting for 3 years, and he's next in line. Then a new guy jumps in line, but he runs 2 miles a day, and he doesn't smoke. That guy should get the priority. Okay, he should be able to leapfrog the other guy.
Yeah, I want to say very quickly, yes, absolutely. The only reason why I'm hesitating is because the smoker, yes, they made the decision to be a smoker all their life, even though they saw the general warning warnings on the side. They chose that. I don't believe that people don't know what's going to happen if they smoke. They know the risks involved, and they chose to do it anyway. The only thing that I'm like, is because circumstantially the lifestyles that people, like the family systems and everything that they came up in, could have made it so that way they had more of a mental stressors to deal with, and that's how they chose to deal with that, was by smoking. And so then I feel bad saying, look, you've had a really, you were dealt a hard deck of cards, and just because you were dealt that and you took that wrong route, now we're going to say you're unfit. And I don't think that's right. So that's why I'm hesitant. But
yeah, and then it's not a matter of making your organs, it's a matter of your unvaxxed condition could potentially harm others, including the hospital staff, patients, and weakened conditions. But Matt, the vaccine could potentially harm you too. You don't know the ramifications of the vaccine. None of us do. Now, I'm vaccinated, she's vaccinated. So, but what I'm saying is, the other side of this thing is we want to characterize every unvaccinated person as this, Tucker Carlson watching, guy giving the finger. Jimmy Dore's got some serious concerns about the vaccination. There's a lot of people who are like, hold on, wait a second. There's a lot of people who are terrified. I had a girl message me, she messaged me, she's got 3 kids. She's like, yo, what do I do with this? She's hearing all types of crazy shit, all the disinformation that's happening, all the crazy stories that are happening. You got a lot of people who are not maybe as sophisticated as you guys are, who are scared to death of taking the vaccine. They're terrified.
Well, I was really worried about it, but then I went in on it. And now,
because I'm married to you, but now, and you take care of your body, all the rest of it, but you were scared to take the vaccine. So God forbid something happened to you, you shouldn't be able to get the vaccine even if you're on the list, because what? I just think that this is absolutely insane. It's insane. I think people have valid fears about the vaccine, and look, like I said, if you could produce empirical data that states the average person who gets a transplant who's unvaccinated has a 6-month mortality rate, fine. Mm-hmm. Hell, if 1 year, fine. Give us something. But right now, all it is just, hey, you didn't get vaccinated. Sorry, we're gonna jump you on the list. That is insanity. It's eugenics. That's everybody throws the Nazi thing out, but I can't believe this. It's unbelievable to me that this is happening in our country. I mean, wow.
Yeah, but people are looking at it as, well, I don't know. Are people looking at it as this could be the end of humanity if this COVID stuff goes too out of control?
I'm sorry?
Are people looking at it as this could be the end of humanity if this COVID stuff gets too out of control? And if that's how they're looking at it, then it makes perfect sense why they would say, get vaccinated or we're not going to give you the...
Here's Pirate. I'm a Marxist and I'm unvaccinated because I'm worried about the long-term effects. I'm not anti-vax. I'm just skeptical about this particular one. That is a rational, thought-through way to look at it. And to this day, I'm still worried about it because I still plan on having more kids. I'm a vaccinated person. None of us knows what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, bro. You know that. We don't know. Nobody knows. So how can you say that these people, it's like worrying about Tylenol? What are you talking about? This is like, it's unbelievable to me. It's absolutely insane to me.
Right.
I mean, good night. They have valid fears because we've allowed misinformation to get spewed on every major platform for 10 years. I agree with you, Brian. But the fact of the matter is, that's our seats in Laban. That's how we live. Tucker Carlson gets on, he talks a bunch of shit. He lies. CNN lies. Rachel Maddow. Look what Rachel Maddow did with Trump for 4 years. They all lie. I get it. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, okay, because of that, Rachel Maddow, Tucker, all these people influence literally millions of people. We can't tell those people, you don't deserve to live because you're terrified of getting this vaccine because you've been misinformed. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I just... Ugh.
I'm not...
I just think that is absolutely insane. And there are people who have suffered, adverse reactions to the vaccine. That's a fact. I still think you should get the vaccine. I still think you should. But if you don't and you're terrified of it, I understand. I understand why you would be. Mm-hmm. And you know what? The future might play out that they're right. Mm-hmm. And then what?
And then it might flip.
Then what? Oops.
If you have a
right. If you got vaccinated, then we're not giving you anything because you got a lower lifespan now. But you should be okay with that.
I feel the same way about it. If we're looking for the survival of our species,
you're
babe.
You're not talking like a Christian.
Yeah,
Brian makes sense.
Brian, you're saying.
Brian makes sense to me because he's not a Christian. But I don't understand this coming from a Christian. Like I'm just surprised. I'm not saying any whatever. But holy shit, yeah, she did, bro. All the Trump stuff, the Trump dossier, the Trump this, the Trump that. She wouldn't report on the fact that it was Hillary actually that was doing all the Russia stuff. We all know what happened 4 years ago. So what I'm saying is, you can't fault all the people that were saying all the stuff about Trump with Russia. Some of whom are in this room. I'm not going to name them. Like, I just had to let it go because I was like, well, I mean, they trust these people and they're being spun this web of whatever. So we just go, okay, like. I didn't hold it personally against them. I went after it every single time I saw it because I knew what the Democratic Party was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And go watch the last 2 or 3 Middle Americas, whatever last year. You'll see. Like I was constantly saying, like, the media's lying to us, blah 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 blah. It didn't matter. And now here we have Joe Biden because the entire thing was coordinated to get everybody to focus on that so that they could slide whatever empty suit they had in there, and that's what happened. But man, we're losing this virus has really brought out the ramifications of our worldviews out in full relief, because I discovered this on a right-wing outlet on Facebook, and I was horrified by it. I was very angry. And I felt guilty asking this question, but I asked it anyway. And I said, you guys are talking as if healthcare is a human right. Because this Republican guy from Colorado said this was disgusting, blah, blah, blah. Why is it disgusting? I thought you guys didn't believe that healthcare was a human right. So on what basis then is it disgusting?
Yeah, right.
Why should Colorado give this person a kidney? Healthcare isn't a human right. Isn't that a Republican ideal? Isn't that what Ron Paul and the rest of those people are saying? Why do we have to worry about people? People need to take care of themselves. Well, then take care of yourself. You see how that doesn't work? You see how it's so easy to be so calloused and dismissive of people in a different economic strata than you, and you can say things like Medicare for all is socialism and all the rest of it, and you can hear about people dying and it doesn't matter. But now the Republicans are worried that you can be denied a transplant as if you have a right to a transplant. Now, I believe that you have a right to a transplant because I believe that healthcare is a human right. And I also believe that if you can't afford a transplant, that me and Brian and Soraya and the other 380 million Americans should pay for it. That's what I believe. But if you're going to be like a hard right person and say that healthcare is not a human right, then tell me, please, on what basis are we supposed to take care of this person? I can tell you why. Healthcare is a human right. But if you're one of these people that's against Medicare for all and you don't believe that healthcare is a human right, you have no logical ground to stand on to say that this is wrong. Facts.
But
Choose.
I think that healthcare is a human right.
I agree. That's why I'm very surprised by your response.
But I think the only thing that's making it different for me is that, okay, if I was to just come from, like, what do I think Jesus was doing in the situation, then I absolutely think that Jesus would...
Jesus would say, man, fuck you, bro.
It would be on a list.
I'll talk to you later.
If it was limited, it would be on a list, and you would take your turn on the list. And you're probably right, the stronger would serve the weaker. It would probably go on... The Christians would be the first ones to say, we'll put ourselves at the bottom of the list.
Correct. But the Christians are the ones saying, I should be at the top of the list. And by the way, I'm not going to finance anybody else getting life-saving treatment. So I
guess I have a,
I guess I'm good at that. I'm so happy that you shared how you really feel about it, because it looks like you're the majority report. So I'll stand alone on this. I'm fine. I'm fine standing alone. It's cool. I think this is wrong. I think this is really, really wrong. I think the attitude on the left in response to this is also very surprising to me, to be honest with you. But But at the same time, this to me demonstrates the fact that we're really sick in this country. We're really, really sick up here. And a lot of it has to do with our media has turned us against each other and made us to be very cold to one another. And but at the same time, is it the media, or have we always been like this and these situations are
showing our true colors?
Showing our true colors. I don't know. When Jesus just got rid of the virus and multiplied the organs. Yeah, probably. Yeah,
but we're just,
but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, BG, you're right. Although, I don't know, some of these people would probably say that they probably want Jesus to skip the person.
And no, that's not necessarily true, because even when Jesus was here, he didn't heal everything.
No, he didn't heal everybody.
So
he didn't heal everybody.
Yeah. So I mean, this is I'm I really believe this is one of those situations. Like, remember we had that conversation and we were talking about the slap a Nazi thing, and I was like, oh, absolutely. If you're going to be a Nazi, you better know you're going to get slapped in the face. You should know that when you go out in public. Don't put that shirt on. And then, obviously as time progressed and I had some growth in that area, then I was like, wait a minute, that's crazy, actually, because then anybody can decide, especially when you see how much people disagree on stuff, that means everybody would be going around assaulting everybody all the time.
I haven't seen BG in a while, by the way. You don't remember BG, but he was one of my favorite people in that other forum. Yeah, he's by far. And he got mad at me. He never talked to me again. But he's back now. So, yeah. Which vaccine did you guys get? We got the Pfizer one. We got both of them. The first one, you got sick for a day or two, and then you were fine. Mm-hmm. But then the second one hurt your arm.
Right. The second one, my right shoulder and my right hip hurt ever since I had it. And my, I know other people that same thing happened to them, where their joints are like affecting them and stuff. And the thing is, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like some days, like my hip, I'll be like literally limping. It hurts so much. And then other days, today I was jumping from rock to rock. No problem.
Other reasons that you're.
My shoulder and my hip. Randomly, babe. Okay.
We're not doing this. We're not going to litigate this in front of these people. We've already had enough of that shit.
Anyway, so Moderna, I'm sure giving
So we got the Pfizer, we got the double jab. My buddy Benji got the Moderna one. And then Jesse had a couple adverse reactions to the
what was it?
To the shot. And here's my other problem with the shot. I've got a bunch of kids.
BG said he didn't get mad. He just lost his Facebook account.
I have a bunch of kids. We have a bunch of kids. So I've been through the whole vaccine thing. And every single time they got vaccinated, somebody got sick. We just vaxxed. I forgot what it was for Reza. It wasn't mumps, measles, rubella. I forgot what it was. Anyway, last week we got him vaxxed. He got 3 shots, poor kid. And Soraya was fine. I was ooh, and Reza was crying. Soraya was like, yeah, okay, let's go to the car. We were both crying in the car. You were just like, suck it up, basically. So, and he got sick. He had a fever. He had a fever. He was sick, and he was pale. And then he bounced back.
He threw up a couple times.
He was completely miserable. He's inconsolable. And then he was fine. Mm-hmm. Like, being sick after a vaccine for a day or two is not uncommon.
No, I don't think that's an adverse
But what
reaction.
happens is there's been so much of this happening and a lot of this talk happening that when a person has any sort of adverse reaction to the vaccine, it validates the craziest form of the conspiracy theory. And again, I don't know how to say this without being condescending. For people who are not as sophisticated as you mentally, and people and BG and the rest of you on this forum, you have to admit you're uncommonly sophisticated in the way that you look at politics and how you dissect information and all the rest of it. So you can't, and I think what's happening with you guys is you are imposing your sophistication on this topic. Because I know that Ben, BG, everybody that took the Matt, I know that they did some research and looked at it a little bit. They didn't just go and put something in their body, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they did. I didn't ask them, but I'm certain. They did the commensurate research and said, okay, same thing with Raul and the other guys. Those guys are on the right. I'm certain that he looked up and made an informed decision. And I think what's happening is I feel like you guys are thinking that people who are refusing the vaccine have the same information you do and are actively rejecting it off that well-researched idea. And what I'm saying is people don't work that way. People are not automaton logic machines. And the other thing is a lot of people, we're kind of younger. A lot of these older folks don't have even the first way of even figuring out. Well, now look at Brian. I'm not sophisticated. I'm a former anti-vaxxer. That makes you even more sophisticated on this topic than most people. You see what I'm saying? Like, you guys are not aware of the fact that you are imposing a certain degree of sophistication onto somebody else. Mm-hmm. Because everything I'm hearing is, well, these people are choosing to put everybody in danger, and there's no accounting for, they have a valid reason to be afraid. Mm-hmm. Now, whether they have a true reason to be afraid is not the same question. Do they have a valid reason for fear? Right. A valid reason for fear and a true reason for fear are not the same thing. So if a person could convince you that if you walk to your mailbox, you would be killed, it is rational that you would be fearful of going out to your mailbox. Mm-hmm. Is it true? No. But if I can get you to believe that, then it would be rational. So if your house was on fire and you couldn't go out because you thought if I go outside, they're going to kill me, so my best shot is in this house, and I'm driving by, I should still rescue you from the house.
Right.
And you know what else? I should put my life in danger to get you out of the house. Because you were deceived. Somebody took advantage of your unsophisticated mind. Please, I'm sorry. Somebody took advantage of your unsophisticated mind and convinced you to do something that was against your own best interest. How can I then punish you for being convinced of that? That's my problem. My thing is I got a lot of people depending on me to be alive. I'm not saying I would. I don't know what I would do. You don't know what you're going to do unless you're in the situation. But what I should do is run and help that person. I think it's vastly different from a person saying, nope, I want to die. I'm going to stay in here. I know it's completely safe outside, but fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. There are people like that are that insane and crazy and ridiculous. And I fear that people are characterizing everybody that refuses a vax as that kind of person. And in my mind, the most basic instinct in human beings is survival. So in my mind, I'm getting the vax because I want to survive, and a lot of people are not getting the vax because they want to survive.
This is true.
So that's my problem.
So then how can you take them off the list when they were doing what they believe to be best for their survival?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's wrong. You can't do that. I reject.
That's my issue.
Yeah.
The guy that's saying,
you're right. I was looking at it as, look, you have the same information as us, and then the numbers show the vaccination is preventing people from having a very serious effect with COVID. So if you're not going to do that and you're unwilling to do that, and you're going to put your stake in the sand, we'll do it. But we're not going to give these.
They don't have the same information to believe, and the other thing is that look, these older people, like all they know is 4 channels, and that's all they get their information from. They don't even know how to, all these fake. I had one of these people give me a website. I said, Ma, I mean, if it's an older woman, I said, Ma, look at this is not a reputable company. Well, what makes it reputable? Okay, where are the sources? Who are these people? And they're not getting it. And it's like, okay, you kind of have to adjust for that. I know I'm a condescending bastard, but you have to account for that with these people. Like, they don't know. And, a guy like Raul he's a hard right guy, Marca, border, blah, blah, blah. He's vaccinated. But again, he's not the typical hard right. He's not. Raul, you're not. So that's my problem. That's my problem. Like, I understand BG's point. BG was saying, look, I was an anti-vaxxer. I was actively putting people in danger, yada, yada, yada. I forgot there was one report where polio's making a comeback somewhere or some shit like that. We hadn't seen polio. We thought it was eradicated, and then here it comes because these people and they're crazy, whatever. Like, so I understand there's like a real anger and frustration to it. But from my vantage point, what we really should be doing is really taking a good hard look at the media and somebody's got to get held accountable for all this disinformation and misinformation. And I don't give a fuck. Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, all these crazy people that knowingly spin these lies because they're in bed with some political party and they're getting kickback. Like, there's got to be true and severe consequences. Rachel Maddow said a bunch of crazy shit for the last 4 years and received no consequences for it. Tucker Carlson, we've exposed that he has actively lied to his constituency. No consequence for it. And now we're reaping the whirlwind, because I believe that if they would just tell the truth about the vaccine, not even promote it, just tell the truth about it, the vast majority of their constituency would take it. But because they know all the political points they're gonna have by causing this division, they're fine. You know, it's just like John MacArthur.
That's awful.
Yeah, BG's right. It was measles. It wasn't. BG's right. It was measles. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys one more story, and as to what's really getting me here, and then we're going to go. So last year there was this guy, John MacArthur, big Christian guy, big Christian celebrity guy, and you know, as far as his Bible game, he's a bad motherfucker. I mean, he's the best Bible guy living on the planet. Him and Piper MacArthur is better with exegesis. Piper is more devotional and makes you want to go die for the gospel, But John MacArthur, he's the man. Like, there's nobody close to him as far as his exegetical. So my point is, I respect the hell out of this dude. Last year, COVID was introduced, and everybody, you know, there were these super spreader events and things like that, and they were telling us not to. They were trying to figure out, do we have the mechanisms to manage this thing, and can you work with us? See, that's my thing. Like, COVID is still active, but all of the restrictions and things like that, a lot of them have been lifted. So I just came back from the Patriots-Bucks game. Went to a corn show. Shout out to Brian. It appears that our society is saying, it's better to like overreach at the beginning and then pull back and say, I think we could do okay if we did X, Y, and Z. So the way it was handled, in my mind, was perfect. When you have an unknown quantity, overreact for safety. And now that we've got some data,
for sure,
people are the government's pulling back and saying, okay, we don't need to be that extreme about mask mandates. So anyway, at the beginning, MacArthur has like a 6,000 person church. He's a mega church pastor. So obviously California said, hey, you guys can't gather, 6,000 people. MacArthur and those guys said, fuck you, we're going to do whatever we want to do. And of course, all the right-wing evangelicals were like, yay, 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 all right, MacArthur, yeah, stand up to the man, yada, yada, yada. And then I posted on Facebook last year, I said, I hope MacArthur is going to do those funerals for free about the people that are surely to die in his congregation. And MacArthur gets up there and he starts preaching a sermon. And here's BG. Rachel Maddow doesn't deserve consequences for speaking the truth. Brian, you're wrong. Rachel Maddow said that Trump, she heavily implied that Trump went with the Russians and the Steele dossier and all the other nonsense. We know the Steele dossier was bullshit. We also now, recently, by the way, Jimmy Dore broke this story, that Hillary, one of Hillary's folks, was absolutely caught red-handed working with the Russians. It was Hillary the entire time.
Well, that's what we thought.
And was Rachel Maddow out on the case? No. She's full of shit, BG. Just because she was going after somebody you don't like doesn't mean she shouldn't apologize. She spread disinformation and lies, and she very rarely, if ever, corrected herself. And I'm not saying that. Every left-wing outlet that had any brain or integrity said that. So do what you will with that. But anyway, so John MacArthur, he says, fuck you, we're going at it. And so he's going back and forth with the city of California. Couple weeks later, there's this message on his church's website. Mr. MacArthur is going to sit home and rest. He's going to take some rest. So then MacArthur takes some rest. And I didn't hear about any funerals at Grace Church. So I was like, I guess he won that altercation. And everybody was saying that he won. On top of that, he had a lawsuit with the state of California. Mm-hmm. He had a lawsuit with the state of California that they won. So he became this giant celebrity, yada, yada, yada. Then 3 weeks ago, he preaches his sermon. And in the sermon, he said, and at the beginning, he said, there is no pandemic. He literally said that. John MacArthur got in front of those people last year and said, there is no pandemic. He said, fuck you to the government. He said, we're going to keep doing church. And then all of a sudden you hear this thing, Dr. MacArthur is resting. Dr. MacArthur is resting. That's interesting. So then next year, which was a couple weeks ago, he gets in front of his congregation and tells them that last year he got COVID, his wife got COVID, Phil Johnson, who's his right-hand man, got COVID. Then he said that COVID went wild all through the church. Then he said, he literally said this. He said people died, and then he said, but nobody can scientifically trace it back to us. So let me get this straight, John. While you were being lauded as a hero last year, you got COVID, your wife got COVID, your right-hand man got COVID, and a bunch of people in your congregation got COVID, and people ended up in the ground, and you didn't say a fucking word to those people, bro, until this year. John MacArthur, by the way, is a multimillionaire, and he's not a multimillionaire because of donations. He's a multimillionaire because he's an author. He's a multimillionaire. I am certain that when he and he's in the danger zone, he's like close to 85. So I am certain that he had the utmost healthcare, the Cadillac healthcare. Sure I'm certain his wife got Cadillac healthcare. And I'm sure that Phil Johnson, his right-hand man who's been serving with him for 40 years, got Cadillac healthcare. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, you take a 58-year-old person sitting under John MacArthur's leadership, and I'm going to penalize that person for not getting the vaccine? When their pastor's telling them, who has all this moral authority in their life, there's no vaccine? Do you see? You see what I'm saying?
I see it. It doesn't make any sense because, of course, they're going to do that. They're going to think they're making the right choice, and they're being misinformed by liars who. And that's unbelievable to me. I can't even tell you how horrific I find that. Like, when I find out that Tucker Carlson is lying or Maddow's lying, I'm not surprised. But when you tell me that a pastor was lying to his congregants and the world and sued went into a lawsuit with the state of California or wherever it was, like, that to me is insane. And that is like...
Yeah.
That is really, really, I don't even understand that. Like, how can you preach every single Sunday and spend that time with God every single whatever, and then do things that are going to get people literally, like, if it ran through his congregation, that means he knew people were dying, people were sick, and he still kept up that lie?
And you know he's doing those funerals, bro. And he's not going to take any accountability for it. And his people, just like the Rachel Maddow defenders, they're not going to hold him accountable. Wow. And that's the problem. We're in this whole, we got to defend Rachel Maddow because we hate Trump. You don't get it, guys. You don't get it. She lied. Tucker lied. And as long as we keep defending these people because they're going after the people we don't like, we end up with bullshit like this.
Yeah, and it's like, the whole ant thing. When you're a kid, you realize, like, they'll have these little shows where, like, the ants take over. When there's a bunch, if all the people work together to take over the few that are in ahead of them, like, if you think about that mentality, and it's like all of us together should say we're not supporting anybody who lies to us.
Yeah.
And if we, the people, set up our own, source of truth where we can find out what's happening with healthcare, what's happening with all these things, and get the actual truth, and no lies are allowed to be broadcast from that thing.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, we have to.
But instead, we allow ourselves to be ping-ponged back and forth by these liars.
Yeah, and this is, again, why we need a third party. Mm-hmm. Why we need the third party, because our media apparatus has completely been co-opted, and now they're Pravda. Tucker Carlson is Trump Pravda, and then, Rachel Maddow is whatever, DNC Pravda. Pravda means truth, and it's ironic. It's basically, state-run news that's completely bullshit. So, like, it's just unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to me. And, the Russia thing has been completely debunked and disproven. Here's Brian still defending it. And look, I don't care. Trump is gone. But this means then that that we're not going to hold Rachel Maddow accountable for all her bullshit. The P tapes, all that stuff. The other one was all this craziness. And how come Rachel Maddow never talked about Fusion GPS, Brian? How comes? Because it was Hillary. Not meeting with Russian operatives. It was Hillary and her crew that were actively working with disinformation programs to slander Trump so that she could win. And the fact that you and the rest of y'all are still defending that misinformation and disinformation campaign is the very reason why we have people now terrified to get vaccinated.
Right.
But we're going to defend her because she was speaking against a political candidate we don't like. And they got us, man. They got us. And to be honest with you, you're saying third party isn't the solution. It is absolutely the fucking solution. Mm-hmm. We need a third party, guys, because we've got our media apparati are directly connected to these massive political parties that have almost infinite money and have no concern at all for the people in this room. We've got to have a third party. And you know what? If we had a third party, then the news outlets that they would have would be us. It'd be the Jimmy Dores of the world.
Right.
That you cannot control that kind of media. And the people then that would be influenced.
We the people have to set
exactly.
This up.
Exactly. That's what we need. But as long as we're going to continue to defend liars who are proven liars over and over and over again, we're never going to get anywhere.
Right. And if we're behind it, you can't buy off all of us.
Correct. And of course,
that's crazy.
There are multiple political parties out right now, right? When I say a third party, what I mean is a viable party that can seriously cause a lot of havoc. I do agree with you, Amr, that Trump was essentially a third party. The reason, though, that I don't necessarily count Trump as a third party is because he essentially initiated a hostile takeover, so the Republican Party became his party. You see what I'm saying? But I agree with you. He was initially a third party guy for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So my point is a lot of this. I think the moral of the story here is that, and I'm not going to get into Amy's bona fides or whatever. I'm just going to read what she has to say, and I'm going to say, Brian, that I'm going to go ahead and bet my firstborn and all the way to my lastborn that Amy knows what she's talking about. Hillary was begging the Russians to slander Trump. They said, no, thank you. Then she started saying Trump was working with Russians.
Crazy woman.
Crazy woman. Running as a communist is banned. See, here's Brian. I don't suffer from Trump devotion syndrome. See, Brian, there's only two worlds. It's either Trump derangement or Trump devotion. There can't be a third way to look at it. That's why you're against the third party. You I'm not going to use that because you're going to get upset. I think you should look into more of Rachel Maddow. Okay? I think you need to do that. Brian, her proxies were in contact with the Russians, and you cannot tell me that during a campaign of that gravity that they were doing that without her knowledge. Brian, stop it! Holy shit, bro!
Wow.
What are you doing? Stop this! Good night! My opinion on Fauci. Fauci's a damn liar.
I can't.
I believe that Fauci.
Me so angry.
Fauci should be brought to The Hague. I truly believe that. I blame the media. I blame the media for this, but I truly ultimately in my bones.
He committed crimes against all of us.
Against humanity.
Yes.
And I really believe that he should pay for the rest of his life. That's what I believe. I really do. But these people never face consequences. I believe that Trump should be in prison for the rest of his life because of January 6th. I really do. National Guard's not there. They're calling you from Virginia. They're calling you saying they want to help, and you're not going to answer the phone for an hour and a half. Bro, you need to go. Mm-hmm. You need to go. All these people need to go. But you see, we're not going to do that. The people that support Trump, they're going to support him. They're going to say he did nothing wrong. I'm going to say, you know how many times I've asked these people, why did it take that motherfucker an hour and a half to answer the fucking phone when the National Guard was trying to help those police officers? Mm-hmm. Maybe Ashley Babbitt would be alive today. Ashley Babbitt, by the way, is completely on the other end of the political spectrum as me. Mm-hmm. But maybe she'd be alive today if Trump would have fucking picked up the phone.
Right.
But now she's dead. Then he goes after an hour and a half and says, you're beautiful people, we love you, go home. Fuck Trump. He needs to go to prison forever. Honestly, him, Fauci, the whole 9 yards. But we're not going to hold him accountable because we voted for him, we like him. we're not going to hold Maddow accountable because, hey, she goes against people we don't like. We're just going to keep doing this game for these rich people who don't give a fuck about us. We're just going to keep doing this. And meanwhile, regular people are dying. And now people who are being influenced by Tucker Carlson and John MacArthur and the rest of these sociopathic bastards, now they get to die because they can't be on a list. I just think that that's completely unjust, man.
Yeah.
That's completely unjust. Thoughts on putting Haitian migrants in Gitmo? I'm not even going to comment on that, bro. I'm not even going to comment on that. Anyway, guys, thank you guys very, very much. Yeah, XBM, don't even try to reason with it, bro. Look, the moral of the story, guys, is we gotta think long and hard about what we're doing. We gotta think long and hard about what we're doing and what we're supporting. Do I think that Trump is getting in 2024? If we don't have a viable third party, we're absolutely going to have another 4 years of Trump, and then we're going to have 8 years of DeSantis. That's what I believe. There is nobody on the Democratic side that is even going to be able to hold a candle to Trump, just because you're going to have to run Joe Biden or Kamala. Mm-hmm. Kamala had to pull out in the primaries when she got to her own damn state because she couldn't deal with the humiliation of losing in her own state. Mm-hmm. And that's who they set up. So if we don't even have an option about third party. The Republicans are absolutely going to sweep. You watch what happens in the midterm. I am hoping, inshallah, that the midterm will be a wake-up call for people who are far left or whatever. Mm-hmm. These Democrats, they got nothing. They got nothing for you, bro. Honestly. Brian, they have nothing for you. These motherfuckers are putting people back into Gitmo. Biden is adding extra people to Gitmo. We just killed a bunch of kids over there in Afghanistan, and we're still doing the shit on the border. Wake up, Brian. The Democrats and the Republicans are the same fucking person. What do you think is going to happen, bro? You think these Democrats are going to wake up one day and get a fucking conscience? Come on, man. Anyway. Now look, he's calling it. There's Dr. Fauci. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, guys. Much love to everybody. It's 2:20. Vin wants everyone to live. Yes. Yes, I do. I want everyone to live. Okay, so Brian's in complete denial. Fauci didn't lie about the mask. Okay, Brian. All right, I get you, bro. I get you. I got you now. I got it figured out. He didn't lie about the mask. Okay. I'm in the twilight zone. Much love to everybody, though. Seriously, we love you all. Get vaccinated. In the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.